It's the middle of hay and silage season here in Victoria, and people are cutting like mad. So what better time to talk about some of the common myths with hay and silage and talk about some of the top tips when feeding your cattle in a hay and silage program. G'day, I'm Tim Thompson. If you like this video and you find it useful, please hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up. I'm out here today with Arthur Anglais to talk about his experience being one of the pioneers of wrapped silage in this district, and also a member of a very famous cattle farming family. Arthur, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks, Tim. Yeah. Good.
Thanks so much for your time today.
That's a pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Your family's been farming around this area for a while.
That's
now,
correct,
I assume.
Since 1935.
Yep. And before that, well known in the meat industry as well.
Before that, we're a manufacturer, processor of beef in the beef meatworks industry. Yeah.
So much so, Arthur, that your great uncle has a well-known TAFE college named after him.
That's correct. Yeah.
And was a pioneering exporter of meat to the UK and various other international destinations.
Yeah, mainly to the UK when he first started. Yeah.
Now I notice also that you're running Hereford Steers here, and you buy them young and turn them off after a year.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why you've stuck with Herefords while everyone else seems to be going towards the Black Angus?
We've been breeding Herefords since 1960, and that was a choice we made. But the best Herefords are equal to the best of any breed. If you do the job properly, and I'm not saying if you got any other breed you won't make money out of them, but if you do it properly you'll make top money out of Herefords.
And Arthur, as we were talking before off camera, for you temperament is critical, and you're talking about working cattle in the yards.
If you're trying to fatten cattle, temperament is number one.
Yep.
Because if they're running around the paddock instead of coming up to you, and they're not going to be putting the weight on.
And if they're stressed in the yards, even at the abattoirs or whatever, they'll lose quality, the pH will go out.
Trucking them and putting them through the works, etc.
Yep.
If they're not settled and happy, they'll be losing weight, and also you get dark cutters, as they call them.
Yeah.
When you get temperament problems. Results of experiments we've done with feed conversion with Herefords that Herefords come out on top as far as feed conversion of feed into beef, even beating Angus cattle that are up against. So it's not a well-known point. The Herefords don't push it as much as what they should really, but it's a fact. And these 8 Angus or black baldy steers that I've got here now, we're just doing a trial with them to see how their weight gain and conversion and their dressing percentage compares to the pure Herefords.
And I think your point about temperament, if I just spin the camera around a little bit, is well made. These guys have never seen me before. They've never seen this ute before.
Yeah.
We've got a strange smell. We've got a strange look to us.
Yeah, but they still want to.
I've been in the paddock for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and they just want to walk up to you.
Yeah.
But that's how you need to have them, and it's how you handle them in the yards.
Yep.
And when we muster these cattle, take them into the yard, sway them, whatever, bring them back, they're never out of a walk.
Yeah.
And that's because we're in control of the cattle and we don't let them go out of a walk. And we had a lot of cattle stations up in North Queensland where we fattened bullocks and bred cattle, and it was going back to there that you'd always tell a good manager by the weight of his bullocks.
Yep.
And that's how I learned a lot of the game in the early days when I was a kid. as you see these cattle here are more inquisitive than anything else. They don't want to run away from you.
So there's a few tips that you have for using silage in your feed system, and there's a few goals you have for your silage that I'd like to find out about today. And I'd also like to talk to you about some of the myths of using silage.
Yeah, well, the biggest myth I think with it is that people think you can cut and wrap anything that's green and it'll make good silage, but that's couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, here's your silage that you've just cut.
That's right, yeah.
And you put how many wraps around the bales?
6 wraps.
That's a fair few, isn't it? Yeah, but you're going to try and get 2 years out of these.
Yeah.
Some contractors have spoken to me and said that they're frustrated with people that get them to cut the grass on their paddock and then still don't know if they want hay or silage. You've really got to have a plan, don't you?
For sure. Because silage you cut at a different time to hay, because you can make silage a lot earlier, a month earlier than you can make hay because of the weather.
Yeah.
So you've definitely got to know which one you're going for.
Yep. And you've got a rule, once it's been baled, it's got to be in the plastic quick smart.
Yeah, preferably within 2 hours.
Right.
A couple of hours longer you might see a lot of difference, but if you're aiming for the top feed test, you've got to do everything as well as you can, and that is wrapping it as soon as you can after it's been baled.
And typically with your feed testing, what are you aiming for with your silage?
Well, we're looking for an ME around 11 is ideal, yeah.
Yep.
A lot of the times it's only 10, 10 and a half, but certainly nothing less than 10.
You've got very definite ideas about weeds in your silage.
If you don't want to make hay out of your weeds, broadleaf weeds, thistles or whatever, you don't want to make silage out of it because the cattle don't want it, don't need it, and it's not good value, feed value.
And if you're aiming for 1 kilo a day in your livestock, in your production, and you've got a whole heap of thistles and weeds in here that aren't going to have the nutrient value of the grass that they're supposed to be eating,
That's right.
you're not going to get that kilo a day.
No.
They might be consuming your feed.
They'll eat it because it's...
They'll eat it,
is, yeah.
and it'll look like it's working, but it's not.
No.
Yeah. So avoid weeds in your silage. Yes, it will fix the problem in the short term, but long term you're going to lose, aren't you?
Oh yeah, because the cattle won't put on any weight at all.
Yeah.
In fact, depending on what the feed's in the paddock, they'll lose weight.
Because they'll only eat 3% of their body weight a day, won't they?
Yeah.
They won't eat 5 just because you've given them some thistles.
No.
They're still going to eat that 3%.
Rule of thumb is 3% of their body weight.
Yeah.
A day. But that's the big myth that, you know, if it's green we can wrap it up and make silage out of it.
Yep.
And it looks good, but it doesn't test well, and doesn't matter what it looks like.
There are some people that will do the first cut on lucerne with weeds in it, and they'll use that to clean up their annual weeds.
Yeah.
But you're saying once again that's false economy.
It gets rid of the weeds, the annual weeds, if you cut in it early and for silage. But that silage is got a percentage of weeds in it, which downgrades it. If you spray it and get rid of the grass and the weeds, well then your silage will be top quality lucerne and won't have the thistles and that in it or weeds which downgrade it. Sure, it's costing you to spray it, but it's also costing you by putting rubbish into a bale.
You've held off from the twin spinner applicator. You've still stuck with the single spinner.
Yeah.
And you've got a reason for that as well.
Mainly because the twin spinner leaves one end flapping in the breeze, and that can undo for 2/3 of a wrap.
Yep.
I see it, yes. And it doesn't affect the bale of silage so much, it's just untidy to handle and untidy to stack if you've got a a 6 foot flap blowing in the breeze.
And you end up with bits of plastic through your paddock.
Well,
and all
later
sorts
on,
of things,
yeah. But
which
when
is
you
not-
load it on a truck, you've got to cut them all off anyway,
Yeah.
so it's not flapping down the road, you know.
All right, well, let's go and have a look at some of the hay you're cutting at the moment,
Right.
Arthur, and let's have a look at what you're looking for before you go and bale it.
Yeah.
All right, so Arthur, we've got it looking fairly dry on the top here. You've just done your loosen, what, second cut?
Second cut, yeah.
Yeah, and that was done day before yesterday.
Yeah, 2 days ago.
We've got quite a mild day. It's only about 20 degrees and we've got a southerly wind blowing. So it's the middle of the day and you're going to be tedding the paddock today. If we were in different situations, you've really got to watch the weather, because if we're in a different situation where you had a 30-degree day planned, you'd be out early in the morning doing your tedding and you're worried about a north wind.
We normally bale and rake and sometimes ted it at night when the cold airs come in and the food toughens up, to reduce the loss of leaf, because the leaf in loosen hay is very important. That way, more so the baling, it preserves all the leaf and gives a far better product. Yeah, a rule of thumb is that if you grab your hay like that and give it 3 twists like that, it's ready to bale if it's broken. But this is too green, too tough, and still a day or two from being ready to bale. But 3 turns normally and it'll break, then you're ready to go.
Well, don't let me get in the way. I'm sure you've got lots of other things that you'd rather be doing than standing in a paddock with me.
Yeah.
Can I just say, Arthur, it's been an absolute privilege to spend a bit of time with you, such a renowned person and such a genuinely nice person in your paddock, having a look at your great cattle.
Well, that's my pleasure, Tim.
And
If I can impart my knowledge to anybody, well, that's good.
we might have to see how this video goes, and if I do a good enough job for you, we might have to get you to comment on a few cattle-related topics later on.
Yeah, not a worry.
Don't forget, guys, if you like this sort of thing and you find this video useful, hit the little subscribe button, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget, guys, if you like this sort of thing and you find this video useful, hit the little subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and let us know in the comments section if there are any other topics or things that you think I missed out on covering today in this quick guide to hay and silage with Arthur Anglais. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week.